Tommy Robinson was arrested today in Leeds in the UK outside the courthouse. A few hours later, he was sentenced to 13 months in prison. I've never heard of that before. Normally there's an alleged offense, then an arrest, and the charges, then lawyers get involved, then a first court appearance, and maybe bail, and then disclosure of documents, and then a trial, and then a conviction, and then a sentence, and then an appeal. Normally that takes months, maybe years, but this happened today in just a few hours. From Tommy standing on the street laughing, talking, to be sent to prison for 13 months. That happened in the United Kingdom today. And while Tommy Robinson is the man who was condemned, I think the UK courts, well, they committed murder of their own reputation for liberty and law. Let me show you the moment it happened. Here is the arrest, filmed by Tommy's own cameraman.
The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. I've been arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Just turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what the
No, can you explain it again?
arrest and suspicion causing a breach of the peace?
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, officer?
One question, something which you may later
What does that mean? What does that mean?
in this country.
What does that mean?
I've been told that the police are doing the case.
Not at all, I never said that.
George, that's the information I've got.
I'm inciting people. I'm inciting
through his
people.
video and
How have I incited
he
people?
hasn't.
This is free speech. This is where we're at. You're not even allowed to. Look at this.
Look how many people.
Come on, what you try and hide? Do you know when you do this?
These are normal working men.
More people.
Really sharp things are light.
Just
let him do this.
More people are going to watch this now than ever. This is ridiculous, lads. Do you feel right what you're doing here? I haven't said a word. In fact, someone laid their hand and assaulted me outside court.
Yeah, exactly.
Other people swore at me and threatened me about my mother, and here I am being arrested for saying nothing.
I'm threatened to behead
I've done
me.
nothing.
You've not said anything about
What are they arresting you for, Tommy?
Breach of the peace. Apparently, I'm inciting on my video. Can you please, George, get me a solicitor?
Yeah.
Because I'm on a suspended sentence, you see. So
He has actually done nothing wrong.
You can sort anything like that.
Causing a disturbance? But he was standing by himself on the public street. He had a cameraman with him and another supporter, but it wasn't a public disturbance. It wasn't public at all, really. There was no crowd, either on his side or against him. There was no disturbance. In fact, Tommy had been just talking into his cell phone. You can see an image of it behind me. He was doing a Facebook video live stream, and he had been doing it for literally 1 hour. Just standing and talking into the camera, a running commentary for 1 hour. A few times during that hour, people walked up to him on the street to have a very brief conversation, and Tommy did talk with them, and they were all polite, even when someone disagreed with him. No swearing, no shouting. Tommy kept the camera running for a full hour until that arrest. I think I counted 7 cops there. Public disturbance? He was practically alone by himself for an hour. Here's a sample of that 1 hour live stream. It was an interesting conversation. It was political. He had a strong point of view, but it was not a disturbance. There was no exhortation to take any action. He was doing journalism. He was standing outside a courthouse where a Muslim rape gang was on trial. Here's just a sample of 1 hour of Tommy just talking.
I'm outside Leeds Crown Court, where today 10 men are facing verdicts. They're verdicts for alleged grooming and rape scandal. People need to know what's going on. People need to know these court cases are happening. Obviously, the problem is you have people like that who think I'm a wanker for reporting on it. It's no, what's it got to do with you? What's it got to do with you? What's it got to do with me? I'm an Englishman and they're English girls. They're women, they're young girls. Residents now feel they can no longer rely on police in these issues, and they're patrolling and highlighting and trying to combat this epidemic.
The streets were empty. You could see it was rainy out. Tommy was literally looking into the camera and just talking for an hour, holding his own phone. He was pacing and slowly wandering around a bit, and you can see that there was no one there. Public disturbance, it was impossible. There was no public to disturb, and he wasn't disturbing. Now, literally an hour before his arrest, Tommy had asked a few tough questions of 2 Muslim men who were on trial and were in court that day, today, to hear the verdict on their trial for raping white girls and forcing them into prostitution. Tommy accosted the men and asked them if they were feeling guilty and what they had to say about the young girls as young as 11 years old, who were raped The entire interaction was very brief. It was aggressive, sure, but the man went away quickly. They were just walking into court. There was no rule against hollering at an accused rapist. Tommy was very careful throughout his whole broadcast to always call them accused or alleged criminals. I listened closely. He was very careful. And it's a judge-only trial, by the way. There's no jury. And today's the sentencing day. It's not like Tommy's interaction with these accused criminals that was very brief would alter the course of the trial or tamper with a jury. There was no jury here. Just for full disclosure, I want to show you the entire footage of Tommy hollering at a couple of criminal accused.
Oh, lads, how you feeling? How you feeling about your verdict? How you feeling about your verdict? How you feeling about your verdict?
What verdict?
How you feeling about the verdict? You got your prison bag for you?
Yeah, look at you.
Got your bags for you? You got your bags for you?
Yeah.
How you feeling about the verdict?
Oh, suck your mum's fanny.
Yeah,
How you
go on.
muppet.
You got no guilt. Is there any guilt? Is there any guilt, mate? Is there any guilt?
Dad, you son of a
Now, was that a disturbance? I suppose in the dictionary definition of the word, it was a disturbance. It was a bit of an interruption, a bit of noise, but it lasted just, what was that? Less than 30 seconds. And it was neither violent nor threatening, other than that one man who threatened Tommy's mum. You'll notice Tommy didn't even go up the steps on the courthouse. He was very careful not to be on court property. Was Tommy accusatory or insulting? Sure, but it's a free country. Sort of. Anyways, that was literally an hour before he was arrested. He was standing there for an hour thereafter. There was no disturbance when police descended on him an hour later. 7 of them. They were arresting him for something that was clearly not happening. And we could all see it. I should say, because when Tommy worked with us at The Rebel, we had this issue with Tommy before. Tommy was very careful about where he stood. He did not stand on court property because a year ago, when he did stand on court property, he was arrested for contempt of court for having a video camera running on the steps of the court. Now that's absurd. That's unfair. Every single journalist in the UK and in Canada sets up their cameras on the steps of the courthouse to do court reports. It's normal. It's positively what press conferences are scheduled. But Tommy was held in contempt of court a year ago for doing what every other journalist does. So he was very careful this time, I could tell. He didn't stand where he was not supposed to stand. And in part of the video, you can hear him confirm this, both to his viewers and with some court official.
Officer, are these stairs, so if you're not allowed to go on those stairs, am I? Whilst recording. This isn't the property of the court though, is it? No, it's this. Okay, so I'll stay off then. Cool.
It's obviously not on the court steps. By the way, last time Tommy was arrested for this trumped-up charge, it was a 4 a.m. raid on his home. 4 a.m., just for maximum political harassment to his family. They could have popped in the daytime. They could have phoned or emailed him and asked him to come in, but they raided his house in the dead of night like he was a terrorist just to demoralize him, scare his wife and kids. Remember this?
0432 and the police are at my house, and I'm being arrested for going to a court case in Canterbury and trying to video the Muslim paedophiles.
As long as your camera's on, that's fine. You're arrested on suspicion of content of court on the 8th of the 5th, 2017 at Canterbury Court.
Well, they didn't do that this time. They didn't wait till the dead of night to get him from his bed. They arrested him in the day. Now, last time when he worked with The Rebel, we hired the best lawyers in the UK for him. But he was still convicted, and it was the same judge who sent for Tommy, who was mad at Tommy, who sat in judgment of Tommy. And Tommy was sentenced to 3 months in prison a year ago. In prison! For taking a 45-second selfie video. Now, that 3-month sentence last year was suspended for an 18-month period, which means he didn't have to go to jail for 3 months, but it was hanging over him like a dagger on a thread, that 3-month sentence. And still, since we're in that 18-month period, so if he's convicted of contempt of court or whatever, that 3 months, it becomes alive. And that's what happened today. Here, let me show you some more. Tommy isn't working for The Rebel now. He's independent, but we still keep in touch from time to time. And I've privately reached out to his team to see if we can help, but I don't want to interfere with his strategy or do anything without his permission. Tommy was briefly released, but then was ordered back to court today. Here's the court docket. You can see Tommy's on there for contempt of court. Not the breach of the peace that the cops said when they arrested him. And we've blurred them out here, but Those were all names of the Muslim rape accused. That's the gang members. Now, I'm blurring the names because as I write this, I don't know if they were convicted or not, and apparently the names were subject to a publication ban. But it is a fact that other media had published these names in public, and we happen to be in Canada, so the ban probably wouldn't apply to us too, but out of an abundance of caution, I'm blacking the names out. But that's what they used to arrest Tommy today for saying those names, for contempt of court, for naming the accused rapists, even though that information had already been published in the mainstream media and the trial was over and there was no jury that could have seen Tommy's comments and been affected in any way. Tommy's long-standing lawyers were not notified of his arrest today. Instead, Tommy was rushed into court that moment, given a court-appointed lawyer who was neither an expert in contempt of court law nor familiar with Tommy and his legal history. And the hearing was done in a matter of minutes. In minutes! That used to be called a drumhead trial, from arrest to conviction to sentencing in a couple of hours. And Tommy was sentenced to a shocking 13-month prison term. Tommy got a longer sentence for reporting on rape gangs than many rape gangs themselves receive for rape. Even crazier, the judge today issued a publication ban about Tommy, making it illegal to report the details of Tommy's case. Now, that publication ban only applies to the United Kingdom, and the Rebel Media, we're based here in North America, which is why I'm free to talk about it. So what? 13-month prison sentence and a publication ban. No one in Britain can even talk about this. Look at this Google News search. Lots of coverage of Tommy's case. Look at all these news stories. But if you click on any of the British media, they've taken down the stories. It was secret. Tommy was convicted and the judge ordered that it be kept secret. Look at that. All deleted. Sorry, is that the freest country in the world? Or is that the place that Orwell warned us about? Now, why? Did Tommy cause a disturbance? No, he did not. Did Tommy wreck a trial? No, he did not. It's because Tommy speaks boldly about the Islamification of society, especially the systematic rape of young British girls at the hands of Muslim migrants. We don't understand what rape gangs are here in Canada or the US, and thank God. It's not like a man jumps out of the bushes, grabs a woman and rapes her and runs off. That's not what rape gangs do in the UK. It's much more systematic than that. It's organized, it's planned. It's like in Rotherham, where 1,400 young girls were raped. They were tricked and trapped and extorted, and not just raped once. They were raped dozens, hundreds of times. A young girl, say just 12 years old, might be approached by a man who offers them candy or cigarettes, or even a drink of alcohol or drugs, but that usually comes later. It could even just start by telling a young, impressionable girl, I love you, do you want a grown-up boyfriend? Something that might be appealing and tempting to a young girl. And I'm giving an actual example here. And then the man would say, you've had a free meal or a free drink, now let me take a topless picture of you as thanks. And then he says, I'm going to show this picture to your mother, and I'm going to tell her what you've done, unless you sleep with me. And then sleep with my friends, or I'll tell your mother that you slept with me, and we're going to pass you around. And if you tell anyone, well, we know where you live, and we know where your mother lives, and we're going to burn down your house. That is an actual example I'm giving you. That actually happened. I'm not making that scenario up. That happened. That's what rape gangs, grooming gangs are in the UK. It's not a brute force attack, grab a woman in a dark alley. It's extortion and exploitation targeting young girls. As young as 11, the girls feel trapped and ashamed, and the Muslim men, and they're almost always Muslim men, and the victims are almost always white girls. There are some Sikh girls targeted too. The Muslim men don't report each other to the police. They don't stop each other. They join in together. That's why they're called gangs. They pass these girls around as young as 11 years old for years. Of course, there's other criminality too. Violence, threats of violence, even murder. So the first problem is the individual criminals. The second problem is that other men collude with each other to support them and help in the con and help in the rape. And the third problem is that every single authority turns a blind eye to this. Police, the press, politicians, prosecutors, professors, because it's politically incorrect to criticize Muslims. And the perpetrators are almost all Muslims, and the victims are almost all white girls. It's racist to mention it, you see. And even if they had the courage to speak the truth, what do? There are so many millions of Muslims in the UK now, and a large percent support Sharia law. And there are literally 23,000 jihadis on the loose in the UK that they know about. Holy warriors suspected of being terrorist sleepers. Those are known to the UK authorities. So the authorities are paralyzed by fear. Fear of being called Islamophobic, and even more fear of violence from the 23,000 terrorists within. Not Tommy Robinson. He speaks truth to power. He's motivated by a big heart, but he's inconvenient to the powerful people, so he was thrown away today. And you know what? It's almost just as well that the mainstream media were censored, because all they would have done would be to celebrate and to cheer. Like on Twitter, the jubilation of Tommy's opponents was unrestrained, and they were thrilled that he will surely be killed in prison. So yeah, where are your press freedom liberals, your civil liberties liberals now, eh? They don't think Tommy Robinson should have civil liberties. They're happy to have him silenced, not me. Tommy Robinson doesn't work for us anymore. He hasn't for several months. But I reached out to his family today. I spoke to his lawyer, and I've offered to help them crowdfund their legal defense fund, even though we don't have a formal connection with them. I'll let you know what they say. When I last spoke with them, they hadn't actually even had a chance to talk with Tommy. Even his own lawyer hasn't. I won't give away any confidences. I'm just saying, if they want our help, we'll help them, even though he's not with us anymore. But we're not going to impose ourselves on them. I'll wait for them to ask. Because Tommy, even though he's not with the Rebel anymore, he's actually still with us in spirit, because he is still the biggest rebel in the whole of the UK. And he's not just fighting for his own freedom now, he is fighting for all of our freedom too. I'll wait for Tommy or his family to accept our offer for help, and if they do, I promise I will let you know, because I will ask you for your help too. But we're keeping our powder dry until then. But whether he takes our financial help or not, we will be doing our best journalistically to support him. I wish the mainstream media would too. And even mainstream conservatives. It's Tommy today, and it's you tomorrow. That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.